Well, on Maritime Machines, it's all about the connection between the past, the present, and looking into the future. And sometimes people end up finding a passion that makes them want to collect or race motorcycles. And what's really exciting is when that path takes them on a different journey, and they end up owning something that seems totally out of perhaps what you would expect for them and their lives and passions. And that's exactly what we'll be doing today on this edition here in Waverly. You're a motorcycle guy at heart, aren't you?
Absolutely.
So when was the first time that you saw this vehicle that we're looking at right here?
I'll be back in about 1990, something like that. I was visiting a friend in Worcester, Massachusetts, bike guy, and we were in his barn, as they call it down there.
The barn?
In his barn, yeah. And this was in a corner with a cover over it. And I said, oh, that's interesting, what's that? And he pulled the cover off and my jaw dropped. And then he lifted the hood and I thought, wow, this is cool. So we took it over for a drive and it blew my mind. And I said, someday I'm going to own one of these. And this is the car.
And you ended up owning that one?
I owned that car, yeah.
So what are we looking at? But I'm sure a lot of people who are watching this are saying, it's cool. I think I've seen it before, but I don't know what it is.
Well, it's officially, it's a 1964. It comes from the Roots Group in England, and it's called a Sunbeam Tiger.
The Roots Group?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've heard of manufacturers,
yep,
but that's not one I've heard of. So do you know anything about the company, its origin?
Sure, the Roots Group is a company that started way back in the early 1900s by two brothers whose last name was Roots. Okay. And they formed this company that eventually became something like the General Motors of the UK. And right about that time, around the middle 60s, all the other competition cars from the UK were developing hot rods. I think the most common car that we would all recognize is a Cobra. Okay, we all heard of a Cobra. Well, that was a car built by another company in the UK, and they dropped that big Ford V8 in it, and that started a trend. And then MGB came out with a six-cylinder MG, and all the competition was developing hot rods. And this was just a nice little calm car that ladies used to drive, and it had no power at all.
Okay, so I see on the badge a 260. I assume that was the size of the four-cylinder engine, or is that a model designation?
No, that's actually the size of the car, of the engine that was put in afterwards. Okay. The Roots brothers decided they had to do something with one of their cars, and they chose the Sunbeam Alpine, which was this car with a very mild drivetrain. Okay. And so they were getting a lot of pressure from their man in the United States who was in California, and he said, let's put a V8 in this little car like they did with the Cobra and see what happens. So I went to see the hot rod guys down there, Carroll Shelby being the main man. Right. And he dropped a small block Ford in there, a 260, and that's what that is. That's, okay, so the small block Ford 260. Yep. And that would have been what this car came with from factory. It's left-hand drive. Yes. Which would suggest to me it was not built for Great Britain. That's right. They built them for the U.S., basically. Is that part of this Tiger designation, that it was a removable top, or was that an option, or no?
Do you know?
They all came that way with this hard top. Yeah, and in the back you can see maybe from here that there's a cover over the soft top. So this just pops off, and the soft top can go up if you want to have the top down and get caught in the rain. You still have a cover over it. So yeah, it's easy to put up.
If you don't mind, I think we should take a look under the hood and just kind of get a sense as to how compact everything is, all things considered.
Okay. This would have been on the driver's side originally.
And it just stayed there.
And they just left it there, yeah.
Right. You might say this is what makes the Tiger purr, or maybe growl, because that's a little more than a purr, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So this would have been, when it first came off the factory showroom floor, this particular car would have been a V8, you said? So this is what it would have looked like under the hood, not obviously this engine. So the breather, is that air breather original to this car?
Yep. Yeah, it's actually an accessory that you could buy aftermarket. It was really interesting. There's a little story about that. Carroll Shelby put these cars together, and he wanted to be actually manufacture them for the Roots Group, but they wouldn't hear of that. They wanted to do it in England. So for the work that he had done to build this thing the way it is, they made a deal, and his deal was that he got to supply all of the aftermarket stuff, including that air filter.
Right.
To any, so if you want to buy one of those, you had to buy it from Carroll Shelby. So that's how that happened.
And I don't know that many people, I wasn't really aware that Carroll Shelby had that connection to the British Ford and the manufacturer. I mean, I truly know that Ford was a big player in the automotive industry in Great Britain throughout, the modern age. But this is something totally different, and you can see where he got that passion for the Cobra and for some of his later the Mustangs that he then kind of, I would say, adapted some of these style ideas. That he had.
Yeah.
Now, as far as the workability, I know you twist wrenches, you work on things.
Yeah.
This looks like it would be a real challenge to try and work on.
That's an understatement. It is incredibly difficult. Probably one of the most difficult regular things you have to do is change the plugs occasionally.
Right.
And it's very difficult and time consuming. Probably 5 hours.
Just to
Change the
remove
plugs,
the spark plugs.
Yeah, you got to take all kinds of stuff off it to get it down on this side. The way Ford made these engines, they only built one cylinder head, and they put it on both sides, and the cylinder head was made for the right-hand side, and the spark plugs all face forward. Okay, on this side they face back.
Right.
Makes it really hard to get at them, so you have to literally pull the steering column out and everything. It's a big deal.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how often are you doing the spark plugs for something like that?
As seldom as possible.
As rarely as you have to.
Yeah.
Now, it looks like the hood design has some kind of an air scoop system, but is that passive, or is there actually?
That was actually a Shelby edition.
Okay.
And so I bought that. So made of fiberglass, and had it put on by a body man. And and because it was fiberglass and it was molded in, if you look at it, it's beautiful. It looks like it's part of the hood. Okay. It's all flared in, but this has been done with body filler and stuff.
Okay.
And the heat from the engine caused these to have different coefficients of expansion.
Okay.
And so they split, and there was always a problem with it along the side cut. So we fixed it all up and put this pad in here, and that
Just to
stopped
keep
it.
the heat
Yeah,
from
that
affecting
ended the
it.
problem.
This is a Sunbeam. What color is this, Dave?
Mediterranean blue.
So is this original factory color?
Yep.
And you had it, you matched the paint, you were able to
Exactly.
tell that?
Yeah,
Okay.
there's some Ridger paint underneath, even under the trunk. Here. Yeah.
Let's take a look in the boot, as they say.
In the boot. See, that's the original paint. It's never been repainted.
What, up under there?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Is that carpet original?
that was put in by whoever owned the car before me.
Okay.
I didn't do that. Yeah.
Was the interior shag carpet too? That's more 70s and 60s, but
Is that shag? I don't know.
well,
yeah,
it's
sort
a
of,
nice
right?
little pile.
Yeah, a little
Okay.
bit.
Very compact. Very. So
Yeah.
is this original? The way that this was.
Just the way it is. Yeah, there's it's a two-story trunk.
Two stories. Okay.
Yeah. Two-story car.
Okay, that's actually a holder. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
It actually has a name, that thing. It's called a bootman's loop.
Bootman's loop.
Yeah.
Today I learned.
Footman's loop. Footman's loop.
Footman's
sorry.
loop.
Yeah, footman's loop.
And I love it. The battery's in the back, but again, looking under the hood, where else would it be? There's nowhere else to put it.
Exactly, yeah.
You must get a lot of reaction from this when you're driving.
Yeah, a
around.
lot of people say that I know that car. This is Get Smart. Everybody knows the Get Smart card, so it's kind of interesting.
The TV show from the 60s with
Yeah.
Don Adams.
Right, that's it, yeah.
And so that was this model?
Yep. Well, no, actually it was an Alpine.
Oh, okay.
Made to look like a Tiger. But the problem was the original car for Get Smart had a machine gun under that popped up out of the hood.
Right.
And with the V8 in there, it wouldn't fit. So they made it an Alpine, made it look like a Tiger, and put the machine gun in.
TV magic.
Yeah, TV man.
Adapting it to real life. It looks like wood, real wood.
It is.
A real wood dash.
Yeah, yeah.
And a tachometer, obviously oil pressure in the middle. It looks like it was set up for racing in some ways.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, certainly gives you all the information you need.
And the fuel gauge is in, I've never seen one in gallons before. That's pretty cool. I don't know how accurate it is.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
the gauge
pretty good.
itself is fine, but
Yeah, it's pretty good. It when I used to check it when I filled it to see how much it took,
Yeah.
and when it was empty and went up, it was pretty close. So close enough that you can say when you're halfway down, that's how much gas you have left.
now I've got the steering wheel here. So this car was of a British origin, and the signal light's on the right.
Yeah. They just moved it over.
They just sit,
Yeah.
and it looks like this would be if you had an automatic transmission. That's where the lever selector would be, or the gear selector would be.
Yeah, I guess so. That's an interesting observation.
Well, I know you're going to take me for a drive, which I'm very much excited for, because
All right.
this is a car that's more as much about the go as it is the show.
Yeah, yeah.
And you
yeah.
seem more to me as a guy who would probably enjoy driving to the car show more than sitting at the car show.
Right on. Yeah.
All right, well, let's hop out and we'll do that.
Okay. One of the big things about this is that you can buy an Alpine for not much money, and you can buy these in the junkyard. You know, small block Fords, and drop them in and make yourself a poor man's Tiger. And a lot of guys are good at it, and they can make a lot of money, because an Alpine is not worth much, and these things are worth quite a few dollars. So make a quick and dirty Tiger and make some money with it. So and it happened a lot in the States. So the Tiger drivers and owners put together a crew, and there's all kinds of special things that have done by this car by the factory that they can't be reproduced by somebody in his garage.
Okay.
And so these are all over the car, underneath and everywhere.
Wow.
And crews all over the U.S. that will inspect your Tiger and tell you whether it's authentic or not. And if it is, they give you a certificate, give it a number, and everybody knows, even though it might be missing some parts. Like this one, for example, is missing its VIN.
So
It should be right there where the screws are, and nothing on it.
Okay.
So this car came to me with no VIN. So that's something that was very valuable to somebody who's building a fake Tiger. And mine's probably going around on somebody's Tiger.
Well, I was going to say there's a plate there with a number, but that's not the serial.
No, that's not the serial number. Yeah, the important one is not on this car.
We're sitting in here, Dave, and you mentioned this was the car they used for the movie or for the TV series Get Smart. And I'm looking at this dash, and it looks like you've put all these little switches and toggles here. This is how this car came off the factory floor.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now there is a couple of extra dials there. This one here is a temperature gauge.
Okay. Yep.
Didn't have one of those, and it gets pretty hot in here sometimes, I got to confess.
Yeah.
And the clock was broken, and I replaced it with this one, which is not the original clock. But other than that, you never know to look at it.
Now, you've got them labeled, but you said when you first took ownership of this car, they were not labeled.
No, I had no idea what.
So you had to figure it out.
Yeah. It didn't come with a book or a manual or anything.
And, well, early 90s, even the internet would have been hard-pressed to give you the information you were looking for.
I was able to buy a book, eventually, an owner's manual from the UK, and now I knew what everything was. But with my memory, but I'm lined up.
And here it says fuel pump.
Yeah.
This had an electric fuel pump in 1965.
I can't swear to it, but my car came with it.
Your car came with it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it looks like factory. It's back here under the back seat.
Now, one of the things I've noticed with guys who say that they had a passion for cars is that their parents sometimes weren't all that interested. Was your dad into cars, or was it just transportation?
No, it was just transportation.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, the first motorcycle, since I know you're a motorcycle person.
Oh yeah, what's the story?
What was that one about?
Well, honest to God, my first motorcycle, I was in grade 12. I moved to Halifax, went to Quinn Elizabeth High School. This guy shows up with, guess what? A scooter.
Okay.
A Lambretta motor scooter.
Right.
A guy named Dave Nickel. You ever hear of him?
No.
No? Okay. Anyway, he was a famous guy. He was the guy in school who, whatever you needed, go see Dave. So he had this scooter. And I was just hanging around that scooter and drooling on the damn thing, and one thing led to another. And he said, "You love this thing." I said, "I love it." he said, "Want to buy it?" I said, "I have no money." I'm just a kid.
Yeah.
So I had an aunt who doted on me. I was the only boy in the family.
Okay, yeah.
But anyway, she coughed up the $100. I bought that motor scooter, and that was it for me. That was a goner.
And when you drove that home, what did your mother tell you?
Well, she had no idea that I had a motor scooter. So I parked it up the street.
You parked it up the street.
So I had it for about 3 or 4 months before I finally owned up to that I had a motor scooter.
Right.
My poor mother, I think she burst into tears. You know, it made me feel bad.
There we are. Carol Shelby, meet your heart out. This car does not have an antique license plate.
No, it qualifies, but one of the problems that I have with the antique plate is they come with qualifications and restrictions. And you know, I like to drive my cars wherever I want to drive them, when I want to drive them, and I didn't want to be restricted by those rules and regulations, so I just never bothered.
So if I turn that off, it'll shut off, won't it?
What's that?
The fuel pump.
Yes.
No, this is pretty. Padded dash, which is, you know, I don't think the North American manufacturers were putting too many of those in 65.
Yeah, well, it was nice to see. Especially with the brakes it had on when it came.
Right. And lap belts only, obviously.
Yeah, lap belts only.
No shoulder belts.
That was a big deal. Yeah, people wouldn't wear them. No, not wearing those belts.
and this magic button, which of course, you know, back when people smoked, everybody it was the law, you had to smoke, so they had to put lighters in ashtrays and everything.
Yeah.
And the toggle switches for the wipers and obviously this switch over here, is this a choke?
Which one?
This here?
No, that's windshield washer.
That's the windshield washer?
Yeah, yeah.
It's a manual pump?
No, it's actually got a pump.
Oh, it does have a pump.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
No, this is very stylish. I can see nice little cruise in this. Go as far as the mag goes.
Super cool. Yeah.
And space for your luggage in the back. And more room in the trunk.
Yep.
Or the boot. Get the terminology right.
Boot, yeah, boot in the bonnet.
Now, you said you had to put you put a temperature gauge. I'm looking at this. It says hot, warm, and cold. I don't imagine there's too much cold blowing.
No, it's hot, warm, and warm.
Warm, warmer, and really kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah, right. We have 300 members in our club.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, and in the British Automobile Touring Association of Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
But they're in all MariTIME. Plus, we got members in the States, members from everywhere, and they all come up here to our events because almost no other place they have as active a club as ours, doing all kinds of cool things.
And the scenery in the roads here.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. Come up for the fall tour. We had a tour that we went to. Did the what's that loop called up in Quebec down to what was it called?
One on the Gaspé?
Yeah, the Gaspé. We went to the Gaspé and came back.
Yeah.
So we're on the way home, and I think there were probably 35 of us. At least half of them or more were MGBs.
Wow.
And we stopped one guy, his alternator went up.
Oh.
So in about 10 seconds, there were 3 alternators hanging over his fender waiting to get put in.
Oh, wow.
Everybody carries spare stuff.
Yeah. You can get any part you need for the engine. You could perhaps, you know, if you wanted to put turbos and anything else on there. But what about body panels? Is there a market or a place for you to buy pieces or accessories?
Yes, there is actually. There, both of them. There are 2 in the States.
Okay.
And you can buy literally everything: rocker panels, fenders, bonnets, whatever you need.
Hoods and boots, as they say.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, there are lots of, and they're doing a good business. I think there's like 500 of these came to Canada, and there was a lot more went to the States, and most of them I think are still operating.
Right.
So there's a market there for these businesses to supply, the parts that they need.
So he's talking about driving fast. Your son.
Oh yeah. So one thing led to another, and he went up to the track. So I bought him it was a 100cc 2-stroke Honda.
Okay.
Road race bike.
Right.
Just a little tiny bike. but it was pretty fast for a 100cc bike. And we had a practice day after, so I said, okay, we'll go up and you can have a turn for practicing. So, yeah, okay, no problem. So we go up and we're going around. I'm with a big pack and we're all ripping around right in the middle of turn 4. Crank right over and I hear this goes by me.
There
On
you
this
go.
100cc rotation.
You found the gear, found the passion. That's awesome. He's had quite a successful career as a motorcycle racer.
Oh yeah, well geez, I mean, he was in demand, After all the manufacturers were chasing him around,
Right.
finally made a deal with Kawasaki, and we went to they took him to Daytona. We won one race and finished second in the second. And the guy that he beat for second place beat him for first place in the next race. So that was cool. And he raced up New Hampshire and Loudon. I never heard of that track. It was a big track. He won races, all kinds of races there.
Yeah.
Of course, he won everything in Canadian superbike racing. He had quite an amazing career.
I did notice the steering wheel says take my glasses, Lecara. So this was not the
No.
wheel that was in.
No, the original wheel had a much slimmer wheel on it, and I found it uncomfortable. And so I just replaced it with this one, and it was a little rusty. It had a lot of spokes, chrome spokes on it.
Right.
And
Was it wood as well?
Yes, it was, but
Okay.
very small compared to this. This is not even very big, but
No power steering. Obviously, it'd be hard to fit power steering in that engine compartment.
No room.
So it must be fairly easy to move around.
I don't have a problem. Yeah.
Fairly short wheelbase.
Yeah,
So
you don't
turning.
do it with one finger or anything like that.
All right.
Yeah.
Unless you got your foot mashed to the floor.
Maybe have the front wheels off it.
And I'm looking at the gas pedal. They were not shy about making sure you knew this was a Tiger. Even on the gas pedal,
Yeah,
it says
pretty.
Tiger.
Yeah.
I guess it's the only thing in here with the branding on it, but it's awesome that they were thinking that far ahead. And as you point out, if somebody wanted to make an Alpine into a Tiger, they probably have stolen that pedal as well, or found one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course, it's in miles, so.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's pretty easy to get a ticket.
And how much joy has this car brought you over your life, Dave?
Oh, it's fun. It's fun because people are drawn to it. I've often been in a parking lot at Sobeys or something, and somebody will come up and say, wow, get smart. I mean, people recognize it as what it was originally, what people knew this car as. That's kind of fun, and it's nice to meet people who appreciate your car and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's what I think.
Well, we've been traveling around the region talking to people about their amazing cars and their amazing stories, and I got to say, this has been one for the record books. We just missed it by that much, Chief. Sorry about that. I couldn't help myself. See you next time on MariTIME Machines. Let's go, Dave.